Hudson River, the Catskill Mountains are one of America's most significant watersheds. A catchment that provides drinking water to more than 20 million people in New York, Philadelphia and hundreds of other towns and cities in between. But this ecological wonder that gives New York its lifeblood is under threat, as big industry seeks to exploit the energy motherlode that lies deep beneath it.
It's called the Marcellus Shale, a layer of rock that stretches from here in the Catskills through Pennsylvania to West Virginia and as far west as Ohio. And trapped deep within, trillions of cubic metres of natural gas.
But it's the method gas companies use to release and capture the gas, called hydraulic fracking, that's alarming residents in the Big Apple.
Are we going to let them poison our water? No! Are we going to let the drillers come in and ruin our state? No! Are we going to put a stop to this? Yes! Are we going to ban fracking? Yes! When do we want it?
Now! Fracking means drilling deep into the shale rocks. Millions of gallons of water, sand and chemicals are then pumped at extreme pressures into the rock, which fractures and opens, allowing the gas to escape.
Don't frack New York!
Although there's currently a moratorium on fracking in the state, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is planning to lift the ban and regulate its use.
Governor Cuomo, save our water!
Don't frack New York!
The protesters are worried that if fracking is allowed, New York will go the way of neighbouring Pennsylvania, where contamination and environmental degradation has been linked to fracking.
People have gotten sick, their water supplies have been damaged, and it's horrible. And even worse, that the DEP in Pennsylvania is not even standing up for the people, that they're actually siding with the industry, and it's frightening. I mean, unfortunately, because of all the exemptions in our national laws, there's really no one looking out for the people.
Pennsylvania is at the epicenter of America's high-stakes extreme energy boom. It's also the focus of mounting reports of environmental contamination and sick residents caused, they say, by water contaminated with the gas and the chemicals used to extract it. In the sleepy town of Damascus, straddling the Delaware River, concerned locals have taken a leading role in the fracking debate, collecting evidence about contamination and threats to human health.
Now, we've gotten reports from people in Washington, Greene and Fayette County, which is down this lower corner of Pennsylvania, about herds of cattle that have been affected by gas drilling waste, and the cattle wind up being sold into the food supply. This is your hamburger, complete with gas drilling waste, and this is part of what we call the food shed, the effect on the food shed, because
they're known as the Damascus Citizens, and the group owes much of its success to community activist Barbara Arundel.
These farmers can see that the cattle are not well, so they sell them, because it's the farmers that are going to take the hit if the cattle are not sold. The gas drillers will not pay the farmers.
At the height of the Bush administration, new energy laws were introduced exempting gas companies involved in fracking from revealing either their techniques or the makeup of the potent chemical brews they pumped deep below the Earth's surface.
In 2005, there was passage of the 2005 Energy Policy Act, which was shepherded through the congressional process by Dick Cheney, who was then vice president, but before that had been the head of Halliburton, which is a big hydraulic fracturing company.
Best thing to do would be to send an email with your request. Halliburton Corporate Affairs.
Did I just talk to you?
Hi, this is Scott Halliburton. How can I help you? Record your message at the tone.
I'd love to find somebody to interview at Halliburton. So if you'd please call me back, I'd really appreciate it.
Josh Fox also lives in Damascus. His probing documentary, Gasland, was nominated for an Academy Award.
One day I got a letter in the mail. It was from a natural gas company. The letter told me that my land was on top of a formation called the Marcellus Shale.
After being approached by a gas company wanting to drill on his property, Josh attended a meeting of the Damascus citizens hosted by Barbara Arundel.
And I didn't sleep for, I don't know, next week. And then I started looking at the things that Barbara was reporting. I thought, how am I going to make anything? What, is this true? Where does this statistic come from? Where do these people, who are these people? What's happening? You know, I met some Joe and Jane, and Jane's like, you got to go to Dimmock. Go to Dimmock. It's only 60 miles away. Just go over there. You know, and the rest is history, right?
The closest they were drilling to me was in a place called Dimmock, Pennsylvania.
Dimmock, Pennsylvania is home to one of the most productive gas wells on the Marcellus Shale, and a confronting example of what can go wrong.
Well, this is the well right here. As you can see, we got the pipe on here is to vent the gas out of it so we don't, you know, have it come into the house. It's not too pretty a sight, is it?
For 3 years, Craig Sortner has been living a nightmare. His water has been contaminated, and he and his family are largely being ostracised by their community after taking a stand against fracking.
This is actually our water that came out of our well. You know, we were making a statement here.
Unlike Australia, in the United States, those who own land also own what lies beneath their land. And with offers by gas companies of up to $10,000 an acre, plus royalties on any gas, it's divided communities and even families.
And a lot of the people get, you know, they wrote in and they said what those people ought to do is get rid of all the signs and just put a for sale sign up there and get out of here. I mean, they hate us. I mean, they actually hate us.
In 2008, a nearby gas well exploded, contaminating a local aquifer with methane, leaving the Sortners and a dozen other families without a permanent water supply.
I can't give up now. We've been fighting it for so long that we got to see this through the end. I'm not going to roll over for the gas company.
A recent proposal to pipe water to the community was scrapped by Pennsylvania state officials, leaving the families affected at their wits' end.
I want them to come here and see what we're going through, how we're living, what we had to put up with, how much we had to suffer through all this, you know, and then for them to deny us water. Why don't we have the right to clean water?
When you have crashed the ecosystem that provides you with water, you can't just fill that system back up with water in the same way that you filled the economic system back up with money. It doesn't work that way. That's how we've essentially corrected the financial problem. We just hit reset, spend a lot of money, put it back in the system. You can't do that with the water system. Once those chemicals are in the ground, they're in there forever.
His documentary portrays gas drilling using fracking as a series of disasters, from tap water becoming flammable due to gas entering the system,
Whoa, Jesus Christ.
to serious health effects. Josh Fox says his motivation in making Gasland was to counter the tremendous power and influence of the gas industry.
When the film came out, they attacked it. They hired the same PR firm that the tobacco industry hired to defend against the argument that cigarettes cause lung cancer. The Department of Environmental Protection ruled that this water contamination, the flammable water in Dimmock, was a direct result of the gas drilling operation there. And they fingerprinted the gas, and the gas industry came out and said, we don't comply. We don't believe you. They essentially thumbed their nose at the state of Pennsylvania and said, we're more powerful than you are. And this is what ends up happening. This is a warning to Australia, because what happens, you let these guys in, they end up becoming more powerful than the government that seeks to regulate them.
Harrisburg, Pennsylvania's state capital and the seat of its staunch Republican governor, Tom Corbett.
Since you mentioned agriculture, I mean, there have also been a few reports of cattle that can't drink
certain water because aquifers have been contaminated up north in Bradford County. I mean, is there a greater...
Well, see, you keep wanting to talk about there have been reports.
Yeah. And they have. They have been.
And Nick, I can't talk about reports that I haven't seen.
Media reports of contaminated wells are widespread across virtually every county in Pennsylvania. But Governor Corbett appears to be in his own state of denial.
I was a prosecutor most of my life. I have to prove something beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law after the questioning has been conducted. I haven't seen those reports. And I haven't seen that those reports have proved that it was the drilling that caused that.
The story of Dimmick starts with...
Despite intense international media exposure of the plight of those caught up in the Dimmick water contamination, the governor has yet to visit the area.
Will you go there at some stage?
At some point, I personally am not aware that I've received any kind of communication from them to go there, but certainly I will go up there.
Governor Corbett does, however, acknowledge that contamination of aquifers by gas drilling can occur.
I mean, do you accept that wells can be contaminated by the drilling process?
Well, I accept that the old gas wells that we have, the shallow gas wells here in Pennsylvania, have had the ability to and probably have contaminated wells.
The present governor got several $1 million in contributions from the gas and oil industry for his campaign. And we feel that many of the things he's doing now are essentially payoffs from previous payments.
And also,
Governor Corbett acknowledges the campaign contributions, but says his loyalty can't be bought.
Various individuals involved in natural gas, and corporations can't give me money. It's individuals. If they expect that they're going to get favored nation status, or I'm not going to enforce the law against them, then they made a bad investment.
In Pennsylvania's Bradford County, eagles fly over another of America's great eastern rivers, the Susquehanna. This year it was named the most endangered river in America because of the threat posed by natural gas drilling. And here frightening evidence is emerging of its impact on human health.
I've had times where I just, for probably a month, 2 months, I just cried every day. Every day that I woke up, I cried. And some days I would wake up and feel like, this is a nightmare. How could this be happening?
After what may have been months of drinking what turned out to be contaminated well water, Bradford County resident Crystal Stroud noticed something strange.
2 weeks after they tested my water, which they told me it would take 4 weeks for my results to come in, I started to notice that I had large clumps of hair coming out in the shower. And being a hairdresser, I knew that, it's normal to lose a certain amount of hair, but I knew that this was an abnormal amount. I started noticing that my hands began to tremble like an 80-year-old woman. And when I went to stand from a sitting position, my knees would kind of give out.
After doing the rounds of doctors unable to diagnose her condition, a blood test confirmed the cause.
And they found levels of barium at 110 micrograms per liter. And my son had 89 micrograms per liter, and my husband had 89 micrograms per liter, somewhere around there.
With up to 10 micrograms being the acceptable upper limit in humans, Crystal had more than 10 times that amount. With her symptoms subsiding, Crystal has recently returned to work. But doctors have warned that the family's exposure has increased their risk of developing chronic health ailments in the future.
That's hard to live with, you know what I mean, for trying to be a very healthy person and then to have it taken away from you because of nothing you did wrong, It's hard to swallow.
Outraged by her ordeal, last month Crystal travelled to Harrisburg with other Bradford County residents in order to see Governor Tom Corbett.
We asked to make an appointment with the governor, and they wouldn't allow us. We said, you know, I just want to speak to the governor. I'm not going to do anything. I just need to speak to my governor. I'm a taxpayer, you know. They wouldn't allow us in, and before you know it, they had 12 guards in the hallway guarding us. And I felt like, why am I being treated like a criminal? I have done nothing wrong. All I'm asking for is a few moments of my governor's time, and I feel that I have that right, you know?
The question is jobs or no jobs. That has a lot to do with it.
Governor Corbett says there's simply no evidence that gas drilling poses a substantive risk to human health.
I have not seen anybody produce to me empirical evidence that the production of natural gas is an overall dangerous health hazard.
But the fracking, of course, is a different
Well, the fracking is something new, but it's not something new to areas like Texas. And they've been doing it for, I think, 25 or 30 years.
Downplaying the potential health risks associated with fracking, Governor Corbett also appears reluctant to investigate it further.
What would you like to see done in that area? I mean, do you think it's wise to investigate it and then perhaps draw up regulations?
That's a very broad question. So it's very hard to answer a question that is, I'll go back in the courtroom, a leading question. Again, I need to know that there are health complaints and that what those specific health complaints are.
What they're engaging in is pure speculation. There is no science that proves this drilling can be done safely. Where you have reports, thousands of reports of water contamination across America. Thousands. And growing every day. Every county in Pennsylvania, and there's, I don't know, 30 counties in Pennsylvania, huge amounts of area right now that are getting contaminated by this industry. And a totally unresponsive government to deal with this crisis in a real way. Oil and gas companies borrow against their reserves. So if they project that there's 100, 250 years of gas in the Marcellus Shale, which they, by the way, was just downgraded by the USGS, the U.S. Geological Survey, then they can borrow against that money. And they're doing just that. They're taking out billions of dollars of loans against these gas leases in places where they haven't even drilled. Their finances are not going to add up. They are going to collapse, but they don't care if they collapse because the guys at the top get rich anyway.
In Philadelphia earlier this month, thousands rallied in protest outside the shale gas industry's largest annual gathering. Josh Fox was there too, trying to make his voice heard all the way to Capitol Hill.
When you have a major corporation bearing down on you, and it's you against their 400 lawyers and their 25 political contacts and the millions of dollars they spent lobbying your representatives, whose voice you think is louder in Washington? Whose voice you think is louder in Harrisburg? Whose voice you think is louder in Albany?